Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Richard, and for the new viewers, welcome. For the returning viewers, welcome back. I hope you're going to enjoy this episode. As I promised in my previous videos, this episode is going to be about the suspension, the how much it costs to replace the entire suspension on 987 Porsche Cayman. Um, and yeah, and the cost and stuff like that, basically. So let's crack on, I guess. Before we carry on, I do want to apologize for not releasing a video for such a long time. I have been crazy busy this winter. There's been a lot of stuff going on with me, and if I had a free time, it was dark because since it's middle of winter, it gets dark quite quickly. So I couldn't really shoot a video whenever I wanted, so I was restricted to weekends, and I was always busy at weekends. I know I'm making excuses, but yeah, I'll try to, I'll try to release videos more often as time goes on. So yeah, so let's crack on then, I guess, with this video, shall we? Um, yeah, so I made the list and I divided it in front and rear and then combined it and all that. So I hope it's going to be informative as much as it can be. Uh, the front suspension, start with front because that's the one I started as well. Because most of the work on front suspension actually I've done it myself. So yeah, so for the front suspension, we'll start with coffin arms. The coffin arms for both of them was £180. The cost of coffin arms. Then yeah, so sorry, I should probably said. Uh, we'll start the list from what I actually started replacing first, and how I went into the car, and what yeah, so what I started replacing, and then kind of when we go down. Yeah, so I started with the obviously coffin arm removing wheels. No, yeah, so started with coffin arms, and the coffin arms I ordered them from Spider Performance, and they cost a £180 for two, um, for the pair, and they are polybushed arms, so that's what I really wanted as well. I wanted everything to be polybushed as well. Um, yeah, so the coffin arms was 180. Then yeah, so the coffin arm center bushes, they are basically they're in the center of the coffin arm, and the trailing arm goes into it. So these are the ones, and they're thicker in the front than in the back. And I wanted them to be correct in thickness, the size, because you can get them thinner ones. They come with the thinner ones, same in the rear, and apparently they could do, but I wanted the proper ones. And yeah, they were power flex as well. So for the pair of them was 68.95. That's not that bad actually. And oh yeah, control arms, the tuning forks. Yes, two of them was £135, which is not bad as well. Uh, I probably should say most of the parts. It really surprised me. Most of Porsche parts, they're not really that actually expensive, or I should say, not mm, overly more expensive than the equivalent of VW, Audi, Mercedes, BMW. Sometimes probably even cheaper, which really surprised me. So that's a good thing, I guess. It's just the amount of them, I guess, because they're multi-link, the McPherson. They're not the double wishbones. Um, so there is quite few components in it. So it kind of adds up. So you'll see what I mean. So yeah, so I've done the coffin arm bushes, control arms, the tuning forks. Yeah, so they were 135. Then I've done inner tie rods, which you should, because on I think on Porsches it's like a thing on them. They go. Um, so inner tie rods, they were £30 for a pair. Like I said, they're really reasonable. The track rod ends, they were £37.50 for a pair. Anti-roll bar links, 20 quid each, so £40 for a pair. Top strut mounts, they were, well, these were expensive. So Front shock absorbers, I found it in all the paperwork I had. They have been replaced in 2016, and since then the car only done like 10,000 miles, and they have been replaced to Bilstein B-Force. So I thought it's kind of no point. There is no point for me to change into new ones because they're obviously perfectly fine. So I didn't change them, but I have changed the strut mounts because they were making a bit of a noise. So the strut mounts were £163 and 31 pence. They were expensive. Um, then I bought all like nuts and bolts, eccentric bolts and nuts as well because I didn't know how many times they were tightened. Apparently, eccentric bolt apparently can only be tightened and loosened only 4 times. After that, it's not secure, I guess. I don't know, but yeah. So when you don't know how many times it's being done, you kind of wanna make sure it's right. So I bought all the new ones, all the nuts and bolts new, and it came to £34 and 8 pence. Um, Lowering springs, obviously these are for front and rear, but I've added into front. They were H&R lowering springs. I think it was 35 mil drop, £250. And then so the total of the front suspension comes to £938 and 84 pence, which is not bad really. But like I said, most of the work I've done myself, and later on, what I didn't finish, my mechanic finished it, and he did charge me still £200 because it was quite a big deal. It was difficult to do it, and basically, yeah. So it came up to about £200 in labor, because he had to strip it all down anyway because he was changing strut mounts and one inner tie rod. I just could not get to it. He got it. He replaced that. And all the rubbers of inner tie rods. What are they called? I can't remember. The rubber sleeves, whatever. I didn't put them in here, but I've changed them as well. They were not that expensive. I think they were like 30 quid or 20 quid for two, whatever they were. Yeah, so done them as well. Um, yeah, so with labor it was £1,138 and 84 pence. For the rear, yeah, so the coffin arms, they cost the same because the exact same arms really, front and rear. Just the center bush is a different thickness. Um, they were 180. Um, then eccentric arm bushes. Well, these are the other things you need if you're lowering your car. If you're not, then you don't need them. But if you do, the rear bushes of the coffin arm that actually bolt to the subframe itself, they actually have eccentric bolt for tow in and out, but it's not sufficient due to when you lowering the car, the geometry change. So you have to get these eccentric bushes, which can really go up, a lot further up, backwards and forwards. So they, the only ones I could find, they were from Powerflex as well, and they were really dear. For them two bushes was £196 and 72 pence. Yes, they would actually cost more than the coffin arms themselves, which are entirely polybushed as well. Yeah, so that was a big expense. Then control arm tuning forks, or control arms or tuning forks, whatever you want to call them. They were 150 for the pair. Then track control arms or tie rods, whatever they are called. They were 120 for a pair. Uh, One thing to note about them, because this is, I think, quite important. Nobody tells you that, and I did know about the bushes, the eccentric bushes that I will need to get them due to me lowering the car. But what I didn't know that you really, ideally, you need the the track control arms or tie rods, whatever you want to call them, as well. Um, because I'm gonna try to explain to you as best as I can. What happens is when you lower the car, obviously all the geometry changes quite a bit, and Yeah, so when they try to bring the toe in of the rear wheels, because that's what they want to do, because when they lower it, it's too much. It's over 2 degrees. It's like 2 point, I think it's 2.3 degrees at best case scenario, or 2.2 before you get eccentric bushes. So you need to bring a bit in, or you're gonna just chew your tires on, because you're not tracking the car really. So you want it to be 2 or below, which it's very hard to achieve due to the length of your tie rods, because this where they sit a bit off center to the back of the wheel. I mean, kind of in the middle. So when you try to bring the wheel in, the tie rods doesn't let this side of the wheel to go in as well. So it kind of pushes the wheel out like this. So the wheel ends up out of kind of position everywhere. So it doesn't really work. Uh, so now my wheels are both. I had it somewhere in paperwork. 2.5 degrees, I think, out. That is toe out is 2.05 degree, whatever, which is kind of barely reasonable, I guess, if you don't want to chew your tires. But if you want to correct that, and ideally, I think you want between 1.75 and 1.75 and 1.95. I think that's what he said to me. That's the ballpark where you want your wheels to sit. Uh, so if I want to change to that, I'll have to get the adjustable control, the tie rods or control arms, whatever you want to call them. So don't know if I'm gonna do that. I'll let you know. I think I'll see how the tires are looking after a while, because it's been a while now. I've been driving. I didn't look actually on inners, but it seems the back end seems to be fine. So it's probably better it is than it would be otherwise, because the toe is a bit wide. It's over 2 degrees. So we'll see how it goes, I guess, and I'll report report it back to you whether it's will be any wear on inner tires, on inner edges of the tire or not. Right. So anti-roll bar links, they were I only replaced one, because one of them was more or less brand new. Somebody, I think, whoever did the tracking before they replaced it, I don't know. So I only replaced one, and that was only 20 quid. So again, nuts and bolts, I replaced all of them, because you really don't know, like I said, how many times they've been loosened and tightened, and you don't want to mess with that really. You want your geometry be in order all the time. You don't want to run away from you every time you hit a pothole or the bolt snap or something. Anyway, so yeah, the bolts for the rear was £30 and 18 pence. The bump stops, there were £16.50 for two, which I actually haven't changed it, fitted new ones, because they were too big for some reasons, and the old ones were fine, so I kept the old ones, so I still got the bump stops. Right, so the shock absorbers were the originals, the car that left the factory with, so they were old, so I replaced them to equivalent of the front ones, Bilstein B4s. They were expensive. For two of them was £460 and 94 pence. Which quite surprised me actually how expensive they were, considering they were manufacturer's equivalent. So they're not B6 or B8 Bilsteins, which are a lot more expensive actually, which I wanted to buy originally, but kind of was a bit restricted with funds, so I stayed with B4s. But yeah, so that would be expensive purchase if you do the front and back just for the kind of original spec. It would be £1,000 just in shock absorbers, and then probably strut mounts and front strut mounts, and it kind of carries on, runs away from you, I guess. Yeah, so that's all I've done to the rear, and that came up to £1,174 and 34 pence. Yeah, so the labor was £370, and which is quite a lot. But if you consider how difficult it was for it, the reason I didn't finish the car myself anyway, I didn't do the rear, or I didn't even finish the front fully, because every single nut and bolt was rusted so badly you couldn't get nothing out. It was ridiculous how bad everything was corroded, because obviously aluminum and steel, they react and they kind of fuse together, and you can't Honestly, I was fighting every single nut and bolt. I was chopping them and all sorts, and it was just so damn difficult. I just gave up and I said, no, I'm not doing all of it. No chance. So I've done the front as much as I could myself. That and then I made sure I could put it back together and kind of nurse it to garage, and that's what I did really. And it stayed there for like 4 days, and he was fighting every single nut and bolt, chopping everything and drilling. And after he finished, he said, "Whoa," he goes, "that was a big job." He didn't expect it himself, yeah. So and he ended up charging me £370. So with the labor included for the rear was £1,544 and 34 pence. And then what I've done, so I divided the cost in the front and rear without the labor, just in parts, cost me £2,113 and 18 pence. And then with labor included, it cost me £2,683 and 18 pence. So I don't considering this to be crazily expensive or overly expensive, but considering that that was something I was not planning to do at all, that hurt me a little bit. I'll admit, um, because my original idea was to get the car, replace the tires, do the wheel alignment, and that's pretty much it. Because I thought everything else was sweet and sound. Um, but that was not the case at all. And the things that had to be replaced, if from memory, I can tell you the ones that were gone was one front coffin arm, uh, uh, one tuning fork was knocking. Stop strut mounts were knocking because they were not replaced. I don't really understand how somebody replaced the shock absorbers and then haven't replaced strut mounts. I know even if they look okay, it's just where they are, the difficulty to get to them. You would think you would spare the expense and just do the work, and but I guess they didn't. Anti-roll bar links were gone, um, and I think that's pretty much else. But oh no, sorry, the inner tie rods they were gone as well. They were playing up like mad. Yeah, so everything else you change it because it just goes together, and then before you're done, you literally end up replacing entire front suspension. And to the rear was more or less the same story. The coffin arms were playing. One tie rod was playing, or whatever you want to call it, the track rod, track control arm or tie rod, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, one of them was playing, and the shock absorbers. I knew they were not changed since the car left the factory more or less, since it was new, and the car is knocking on now. It's 2006, so that's 14, 16, 17. It's 17 years old now, or will be soon. Um, so I thought I'll just better replace it. What shocked me though, what really surprised me, when we removed the old shock absorbers, they weren't brand new. When you press them into, with the way they were coming back and how much force it took them to press them in, but they were not gone. They were not. They were still fully functional. So I was really, really surprised by that. But yeah, I replaced them because you replaced everything, and why wouldn't you? Yeah. So that's that really. Yeah, I didn't. I left few. I think I'm sure I left few things out, or like wheel alignments. I've done like three of them, but I just left them out because they were 100 quid each, whatever they were. So and tires, I left tires out because that's not part of suspension. I guess it's. Oh yes, so most of the suspension parts are bought in two shops. It was Design 911 or Spider Performance. Both of them are really good guys. I couldn't recommend them enough, really. That's one thing I really like about Porsche community. When you ring to these places, the people are really knowledgeable, and they really try to help you. They give you a discount now and then, and just because you rang them. So yeah, so it is Spider Performance or Design 911. These all. Yeah, most of I'll say everything I've got from these two shops. Oh yeah, sorry. And where did I get all the parts from? It was from two shops, online stores. One was Design 911, and another one was Spider Performance. Both of these shops, my experience, it was great, brilliant, really good guys, very knowledgeable. You can ask questions, they will take the time to answer to you. So I couldn't recommend them enough. I can, I'll put the links in description, I guess, if you need to find it for research purposes or whatever. But yeah, so these these are the places I've got the my parts from. Yeah, and so my next video is going to be. I know it's supposed to be the how much it cost me. The what else, what other what other expenses I had on the car and how much I spend on bits and bobs and whatever. But that's coming. But before that, I wanted to do another video, which is probably going to be helpful to a lot of people. Because I had to do quite a bit of research to find this. So the front lights, I don't have the xenons, and they're just normal lights and halogen bulbs, and they are horrible. I cannot see nothing in nighttime, and they don't look very good as well. And I was looking for the LED replacements, and from Facebook forums on Facebook, the guy suggested these night eye whatever LED. I've got them from Amazon. I'll clip them in description on the next video. Yeah, so I actually have tried one of them already, but it didn't work, and I don't know whether it's because I put just one, or I don't know. I did something wrong, so I'm gonna try tonight and make a proper video about these. So that will be my next video, and after that, yeah, I'll do the video about the rest of the expenses, how much it cost me, because it was quite a bill as well. And yeah, so I hope to see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, please, if you can. That would be nice. And yeah, thank you very much, and see you soon. Bye.